President Joe Biden's student debt forgiveness plan has been blocked. The fate of millions of Americans now sit in Biden's hands. Last week, we talked about this development. Let's put up this headline. Federal judge in Texas declares Biden's student debt relief plan unlawful. But this isn't too shocking considering Biden's plan has been the subject of several lawsuits, if you can believe that people have nothing better to do but to try to mess with other people's lives. I mean, it's kind of similar to what John and I were talking about before the break, making all kinds of negative mischief. Conservative state attorney generals have been making this kind of mischief. So what are the lawsuits about? So the plaintiffs in Texas, in the Texas case, are two individuals backed by conservative organization, Job Creators Network Foundation, who allege that forgiveness plan unfairly excludes them and therefore should not be allowed because, yeah, it's all about them. But thanks to the great work of Ken, we know that this plaintiff only believes in loan forgiveness when it applies to them. Let's put up what Ken tweeted. Breaking, a federal judge has struck down Biden's student debt forgiveness program after a plaintiff filed suit alleging it was unfair to people who didn't qualify. But the plaintiff is a business owner who had $47,000, almost $48,000 in PPP loans forgiven in 2020, just dripping with hypocrisy, yeah. And what does this mean for borrowers who applied for forgiveness? So essentially, this just means that you will be waiting a little longer. The administration says it's holding on to the 26 million applications it has already received for forgiveness, adding that 16 million of those have already been approved and forwarded to the loan servicers. Oh, these people, I just cannot believe it. But meanwhile, this court ruling has halted the applications. The education department is no longer accepting applications for relief because of the court ruling. More than half of eligible borrowers have already signed up. So the update though, with this challenge, Biden is considering extending the freeze, and that really is the right thing for him to do. This freeze started under President Donald J. Trump, if you can believe that, it really did. And so that power to continue freezing the student loans are there despite the court challenges. And so people familiar with the matter, as the legal vulnerability has become clearer and clearer, the White House has been making increasingly firm plans to extend the loan repayment pause. The extension we're likely to see is meant to make sure borrowers don't have the rug pulled out from under them rather than an indefinite replacement for loan forgiveness. Oh, but even worse, let's put up this headline. Biden administration warns of historically large increase in student loan defaults without debt forgiveness. So the fate of these borrowers are in the hands of the president of the United States since the courts are up to mischief. John?
Yeah, there's a lot of layered issues here in terms of the historic increase in defaults that they're talking about there. I mean, we're still very much like people haven't economically recovered from the pandemic. That is definitely true. People are still losing their jobs. Inflation is hurting people. The rise in the cost of rent. That's all true. But then at the same time, like think about how many people heard a couple of months ago that this debt cancellation is going to happen. They might have already gone through the application process, and they've also begun to live their lives based on the expectation that that's going to happen, which could include changing your job, moving to a different part of the country. Spending habits might have changed as well. And so those people are now being blindsided by the possibility that thanks to this corrupt judge, it could be taken away. So that could lead to more defaults that wouldn't have existed before this whole process began. The entire thing is ridiculous. The legal argument that's being made by this plaintiff is absolute BS. Not only, as you pointed out, as Ken points out, the hypocrisy when they've already had more debt canceled via the PPP program than most people ever will from the student debt program, but also the idea that they're only mad about this because it's unfairly excluding them. That is absolute BS. First of all, it's by definition not unfairly excluding them, since he, according to the administration, doesn't have the legal authority to cancel private loans. So it's by its very nature fair. He's doing everything he can, but also the conservative organizations that are propping up this lawsuit don't want any cancellation under any conditions. And so this is totally BS. The only reason it's even made it as far as it is because they found the right judge. A judge who based purely on ideology, not on any sort of judicial philosophy, is gonna temporarily give them the win. The question is going to be, how will the Supreme Court rule on that? And I think we have a hunch. The Supreme Court has not universally been terrible over the past few months, but I do worry about the possibility they could knock this down.
Yeah, I worry too, and I'm sure the millions of people who have been waiting for this relief worry as well. Well, the president can continue to extend the pause. Glad that he is going to do that, and we got to keep pushing, and that Congress needs to act as well.